welcome back to the What If It Works podcast. I'm your host, Ann Vogt, and I am pumped for episode 40. This is another interview episode, and today I had the privilege of interviewing Brie Taralson, who is the owner of Lykke Books and the founder of Lykke Communities. Now, at first, this was just going to be an episode learning about how Brie got started with a new bookstore and a new community space that is coming to the town of New Ulm, Minnesota. However, this episode is so much more than that. So I want to ask you, what if you went all in on finding your purpose, and that little action of you going in on that purpose and that passion actually has an immense impact on potentially hundreds to thousands to entire communities? And what if it works? What if you decide to get moving, create momentum in your life, figure out what that purpose and that passion truly is, you go all in on it, and now your selfishness of going in on your own dreams actually turns into incredible impact for others. That is exactly what we dive into today with Brie. I cannot wait to introduce you to the concept of a third space. I am excited for you to be thinking about how we live our lives and how society has impacted our connectedness with others. And I hope you walk away, as I did, inspired to take action and build more connection within your circles of people. Without further ado, I give you my interview with Brie Taralson. Enjoy. Good morning, Brie. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about your journey and Lykke Communities and Lykke Books. And we're excited that you are kind of opening up shop here in New Ulm, Minnesota in the next couple months. And so tell us a little bit. Actually, let's start over. Let's rewind. I know that you found the little book of Lykke, and that has kind of changed your trajectory. So tell us a little bit about the book, maybe even the state of the union, what you were feeling, what you were up to at that time in life, and then how you move forward.
Sure. So yes, Little Book of Lykke is a book by Mike Viking. He is the CEO of the Research Happiness Institute in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I'll tell a little bit more about that. But I stumbled upon this book in a boutique here in New Ulm. I can't remember which one, but it was not one that typically carries a lot of books. So it was kind of a fortunate find from that perspective. But I was going through a period of a lot of changes and just feeling like my work wasn't resonating with me the way that it had in the past. And not really sure what to do about that. The book didn't solve that problem, but it definitely helped point me down the direction of the things that I found really fulfilling. And so I was reading this book. The Research Happiness Institute is a think tank in Denmark, and so they specialize in happiness research and kind of what about that makes for just a really great what makes for the happiest people. So it walks through kind of 5 different elements of that, talking about everything from togetherness, which is what really resonated for me. How do you fill your bucket, and we're social culture, so we thrive by having positive relationships with other people. He also touches on things like money, health, freedom, and trust as a kind of major component. So the togetherness in particular really resonated with me.
I love that. So on this podcast, I've actually talked about kind of hitting that moment in life where you're going, is this where I want to be? Is this what I want to be doing? Am I still passionate about this? And I've done a couple episodes just talking personally of what I had to do to kind of overcome that and really step into my own and do what I'm doing now. Can I ask you just, what did you do to, you recognized it, you felt it, you were kind of sitting in it. What actions did you take to be confident in taking the next step?
Oh, so I didn't feel confident in taking the next step. I felt like I had hit the bottom from a career standpoint, and
Mm.
not that I didn't love my job. I enjoyed what I was doing. I worked in healthcare leadership for 15 years, and I really enjoyed the people aspect of that. But the work itself was draining. Healthcare is a really tough industry to work in right now, and I was on the caregiving side. I was on the administrative side, but had some significant life transitions. I had a baby. We had moved houses. I lost a friend and a close colleague to suicide in that time period, and just really was not in a good place. And so, as I was reading this book, and thinking about kind of things that by design, happy cultures kind of find fulfilling. It highlighted for me how far away I was from that,
Ooh.
and just recognized that I needed to do something different. I had no idea what it was, but as chance would have it, I had planned to go to Arizona on a group trip, where we were really, it was a resiliency type of a trip, and I'd never done one before, so this was out of the box and new for me. But I came away from it with just a series of experiences that really made it clear that like I deserve to have to be happy and to be to make those changes. And just because I've made career choices or choice in education up to a certain point, it doesn't have to define my path from there forward. And so I think just having that realization was incredibly freeing. And it allowed me to kind of figure out, okay, what is it who am I, and what fills my bucket?
Yeah.
And kind of going back to as a kid, what are those things that brought me joy, and that really defined me as me? Because as a mom with young kids, it's really, really easy to lose sight of the things that make you who you are. And I at one point was like, I don't have anything that I describe as something that fills my bucket right now.
Ooh.
In terms of music, it was really important to me. I would describe all of these things that filled my bucket in past tense. And even that was an easy
Eye opener.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what actions did you take? I mean, did you take a leap of faith when you walked away from your career? Did you have something planned? Tell a little bit about that story if you're willing. The reason I ask this, I'll put it that way. Since kind of sharing a little bit more of my journey on this podcast, I've had people reach out and say, "And I'm stuck. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. You got out. I'm stuck. Help me out." And, I only know what I did in the actions I took. And so I do think it's really helpful for people to hear how other people have done this. I think there's a lot of people who know what they want their priorities to be, but they're still not taking action to get there. So tell me, what actions did you take to get moving in this direction?
So one of the things I did when I got back from that trip was, well, one, I had already made the decision and moved into a different job role that was less responsibility, was supposed to bring me, give like kind of to help me reclaim time with my family, and myself. So just the way that it worked out, I came back on the Monday after the trip, and I was in a different position. So I literally
Okay.
that perspective. Um, I think getting over the financial piece of that, I think a lot of us, I know I felt very stuck because I was the breadwinner for my family. Like, I didn't feel like I had the financial freedom in order to make a big change from a career standpoint, and that felt very debilitating.
Yeah.
And having the faith, really going through and like, okay, what are the essentials that we need to have in place, and what are the extras, and how can I, like, what are the practical ways that we can just get through? And maybe we're not meeting our long-term financial goals in terms of retirement and kids education and all of that, but what do we need to get through just this time of transition? Once like my husband and I got really clear on that, it and I understood that he was supportive, it made it a lot easier to make a change.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't help put food on the table and that type of thing, yeah, but it I also found I had collected a lot of different skills that I could fall back on over time that I didn't really think of as skills, but I ended up taking apart. You hustle through it.
Yeah.
So I took a part-time job with our school district, doing more of a public health type of a role, safe routes to school work. I started helping a friend start her coffee shop, and just finding like little things like that I could do that really helped like reclaim my time.
Yeah. I love how you said that because I have never thought about this. The comment you said was, what can we do during this time of transition? So the reason I want to call attention to that is I think there's this fear of making a transition and not knowing where you're going. And then it's always going to feel like that. Like you're always going to feel lost. And when you put it in like, hey, there's going to be this transition time, and maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 5 years, whatever it is, but then you'll get over that transition and like think of where you'll be or think of what you're going to have once you're through it. And you're, like, I feel like I'm really living my passion right now. And it feels very purposeful. And I feel very driven to do the work I'm doing because I'm really energized and filled up. 2 years ago, I was floundering. I was confused. I didn't really know, is this the right way? Should I name my business this? What if nobody hires me? And nobody really said like, hey, you're just in that transition time right now. It's going to feel really good when you climb the hill, right? Or things like that. And so I think that's really helpful. I have a friend who I just ran into over the weekend who recently quit her job. She's not really sure what the next step is. And I feel like I need to just go contact her and share this phrase of like, hey, there's going to be this time of transition. What can you be doing in that time to like put your mind and your soul and your financial budget at ease? But then there will be, you'll get over that hump. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Let's go to the idea of starting Lykke Communities, the nonprofit, right?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of took a weird turn. So when I knew that I was going to be making a big career change, but I didn't have something lined up and didn't feel like I was in a position to just make the leap, cold turkey, quit my job, do all of
Yeah.
that. But what I was able to do was reduce my FTE a little bit and use that time. So I dropped a day a week, and I was able to free up my my time, and I used that time to do a lot of reading and a lot of just the things that I came back to realize were really joys for me. I used that time to go on walks and clear my mind and really to get clear and to process just what is it that I want to do. And what I landed on was connecting people and resources within communities has always been the thing that resonated with me. I love community work. I love making, a place that you love an even better and more well-connected place. And so I kind of landed on, hey, I want to do this community hub thing. But at the time I was thinking about housing.
Yeah.
I founded a business. It really is not very complicated. You've done it, so but it's you go on the Secretary of State website and you type in your information. You have to have a name and you have to have a mission statement, and that's
away you go.
Yeah. So I founded it. It was as an LLC. It was Lykke Communities at the time. That entity has since gone to be Lykke Books. So
Okay.
In the meantime, then I established a separate corporation. I started looking at housing. I was looking at plots of land in and around New Ulm where I could look at multi-generational housing because that's something that has really resonated with me is just how the design of a neighborhood plays such a key role in how we are connected or not connected. And most of our newer developments really don't, they're not designed to connect people. They're designed to link roads and for cars.
Yeah.
They're designed for efficiency to get in and out of your neighborhood.
Right.
So I find that fascinating.
Yeah. And I think just in general, housing started as a place of safety. And now we've like 100x that, and it's like locked down. And we even talked about a couple weeks ago locking your doors and making sure no one can get in and no one can see in and no one can, you're in this safe box of a house or an apartment or whatever it is. And what that's done is it's not allowed us to connect as easily. You know, even now the doorbell rings and my kids don't, they'll look, if it's an adult, they're like, oh, they won't even answer the door. And part of me, you know, is like, hooray, they're being safe. And at the other part of me, it's like, wow, we're afraid of our neighbors. We're afraid of the gentleman down the street who just wants to ask a question, you know? And so, yeah, I think we've gotten kind of too far in the communities and the housing we've created. So I love this idea of multi-generational housing. Can you kind of explain what that is? Because I need my grandchildren listening to this episode in the future and putting me in a multi-generational housing position.
Well, think about in most American societies, as you age, as you become an aging adult, people tend to downsize to smaller homes, and then eventually move into an assisted living or a nursing home, and that's kind of the normalized path.
Yeah.
In Europe, they've created these things called co-housing, and essentially what it is, think about any neighborhood. So I live in an older neighborhood in New Ulm where we've got detached garages, and you know it's a neighborhood. So the street, like the houses are all oriented around the street. Imagine if you took the street and kind of flipped it to the outside of the houses, and you use that common space where our streets currently are as common entities for a neighborhood. So think of it like a park. Maybe this group, the 8 houses on their block, go together and purchase a play set and create kind of a mini park. Or in most of these European countries, they've created common houses that have a full kitchen, and they intentionally share a meal, Monday through Thursdays, and each family kind of takes a turn rotating through and providing that meal. And it's not there's nothing about the house that prevents you from, being private and
right
and speaking to yourself. But there are so many opportunities through community gardens and just the way that the homes are oriented to each other that lend itself to casual daily interactions, which are really the foundation pieces for building connectedness in a neighborhood.
And studies showing that connection and deep connections between people actually increase the longevity of your life. And so, I just think of things that I think we in American society do are actually hurting us, right? The idea of a neighborhood has slowly started to shift away. People are looking for, even when we moved to New Ulm here in 2018, and not once was I thinking about the neighborhood. Everything I wanted, everything I was telling Kim, my realtor, was I want this many bedrooms and this many bathrooms, and I want a living room, 2 living room spaces, and I want a yard, preferably fenced in. And now I look at it and it's like, man, who cares what house you live? Who are your neighbors? What access do you have to a park? What access do you have to the kids' school? There's so many other things that I wasn't thinking about that I wish I was. Now, granted, we got so lucky and I fell into the most wonderful neighborhood. We do have a U-shaped street, and so it's very quiet. Not many cars drive in and out. And our kids, I luckily ended up with a neighborhood where kids are the same age as my kids and they play all day, every day, and it is beautiful. But that was luck. I was not looking for that, right? I was looking for the essentials that I thought were going to make me happy within my home. And really now thinking about it after even just listening to you speak about Lykke lifestyle is like, man, how can we get even better? And I love this idea of community meals. I belonged to a very small church when I lived over in Morgan, and over Lent, they did Wednesday soup supper. And at first I thought, what? We all bring soup? We just eat soup? That's all. That's it? It's kind of, whatever. Well, what happens when 7 different families make soup? You get to have a conversation around, how did you make this? What's in this? People tell stories of, this is my grandma's recipe, or this is the recipe I got from a parishioner who recently passed, and it was fun and it was calming. And like you said, a sense of community, and you're just sitting down eating soup but it feels way more impactful than just sitting down and eating soup. So had little tastes of that. So I just love this concept for that reason of how do we get more people getting together and connecting and building safety within each other.
One of the things that I noticed when we also moved to town in 2018, and which for those who don't know, Ann and I met each other at a chamber event, New to New Ulm type of a thing. So that we go way back, but
we go way back.
But one of the things I noticed, when we moved, we hadn't sold our home in Fargo and couldn't for a variety of reasons. So we ended up renting when we were here. And as people in New Ulm probably know, housing market's really tough, especially with the rentals. It's hard to find a place. We had a small kid and a dog. So like the options were not limitless. But we ended up on actually the same street that I live on now, in an old home with a detached garage, and we were moving in. And we met all of our neighbors within 24 hours of moving in, just because we pulled up with the truck and we were unloading things. But people were out in their yards or in their back alleys and things like that. And it was such a stark contrast to the neighborhood that we had moved from, which was a newer development. And so, we had a detached garage where you hit the garage door opener, you roll in, you hit it back down. And we had met a couple of our neighbors, but never really had a lot of conversation.
Yeah.
And that experience, we ended up, because we were walking every day to our alley garage, we were meeting neighbors that were on similar schedules to us, and getting to know kids across the back alley and things like that. Things that just didn't happen in our old neighborhood. And I didn't really think about it at that point, but we actually made another move to a newer neighborhood here in town, and it was a completely different experience. It was very similar to what we had in Fargo. And it again kind of piqued my interest in, hey, why does that feel so different? And a lot of architecture, even of like a kid learning how to ride her bike on an old neighborhood, because we all have back alley garages, there's no easements, there's no driveways going out. You have to teach them to stop at each, stop every driveway.
Yes.
In an old neighborhood, whereas the new one we did. And so that was, it's that simple act of even biking and teaching your kid how to bike on the sidewalk felt different in one neighborhood compared to the other.
I love that you're saying, at one point we asked ourselves, like, what is so different? It's the same town. Mm-hmm. It is the same community. I put that in quotes, but it's a large community. So you have little communities within your town, and, how are you interacting with people? And, getting to know them. I think that's really big too. A lot of the yards that we have around here, everyone's in their backyard around my neighborhood. That's where they have their gardens. That's where they have their flowers or their patio or their hot tub. They all kind of have it in the back. So we really only run into each other when we're out walking or when we're getting the mail. Other than that, it's not a lot of connection time. Otherwise, we're just not running into each other. We have to be intentional about it, which I think is really important. All right. So you start the Lykke Communities LLC, and then tell me about the shift into the bookstore. I am so excited about the bookstore, which is why we're on this interview, but the whole picture is so important to understand too. But tell us about how that transition happened and why you feel like it's important.
So when I was looking at the housing piece of it, I realized pretty quickly that it's a big hurdle to climb. For one, interest rates are very high. The cost of building, inflation has been higher in the past few years, and so the cost to build new was cost prohibitive. And New Ulm has done a great job of filling in existing buildings, old schools and like buildings that would naturally have been maybe something that you could be rehabbed and recreated into that type of a space. So there just wasn't a lot of options. So I said, okay, well, let's just focus on this community hub kind of piece of it, the common house concept. And if I do that, what are some ways that that I fit? My retirement goal has always been to work in a bookstore. Work in a bookstore. And so they serve as community hubs. Of life, come in and enjoy, and it's kind of the intent is to create spaces where you can have diverse opinions and viewpoints and have discussions and things like that. So I kind of went, okay, well that sounds like maybe something that fits. But I had already found my company, and so with the chamber, I rented a booth at the Home and Health Show in 2023, and spent 2 days talking to people in New Ulm and asking the question about, what is it about, what would bring you back downtown, whether it's retail or parks or entertainment, whatever. What is that? And so I gathered kind of all of that information and identified some gaps in our community. And that was really what formed the foundation of what decided to put into this community hub that is going to be opening next month. So what I heard were things like retail, of course, is something that has, is missing from downtown. But other things like we don't have a community bike shop, for example. We have gaps in our programming for area youth, particularly for kind of middle school and high school kids up until they get their driver's license. If they're involved in sports, there's not a ton of options for those kids to get involved and to have a place where that they really belong. Because think about it, the downtown businesses that are more like dining and kind of entertainment type of places, for the most part, are centered around alcohol. So not passing judgment on it. It just 14-year-old is not welcome to go in there on their own. So anyway, we kind of paired all of these things together and created this bookstore. So the bookstore itself is an anchor in this community hub. I've committed to donating a percent of profit to the nonprofit organization to help fund youth programming, because I wanted there to be a sustainable link that doesn't rely solely on donations and grants.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're also pursuing grants and other things, but the idea is that we're trying to pair, a bunch of businesses and needs into that same space so that we could create this space that has, kind of something for everybody. So not big in the bookstore. Maybe you come because Good Assassin is operating, this grab and go cafe, and you can get a great meal at a reasonable price and have a chance to enjoy it with a friend. Or maybe it's you're artsy and you want to come enjoy our art gallery that will be featuring local artists on a rotating basis. You don't have to spend money to do that.
Yes.
You can just come and enjoy the space, and I think the rest of it will come as we get more foot traffic.
Yeah. So the bookstore will be an entity of this community space, also called a third space, if you're reading the Little Book of Lykke, right? A space where it's outside of their home, it's outside of their work, but it's a place that they can gather and feel safe and like they belong in that space. And that location is called what? You have a new name. I'm so excited.
It's called Ulm Sweet Ulm. And so each of the organizations that are in it, Lykke Books is one of the companies that's inside of Ulm Sweet Ulm. Good Assassin is another. Crash 8020 is another. But we'll all be kind of under this umbrella of Ulm Sweet Ulm.
Yes. So if you're not local, New Ulm, that's like ULM, like Ulm, Germany. That's our sister city. So the bookstore is Ulm Sweet Ulm, which is so cool. And I just love the connection to like home sweet home, third space, safety. It just feels it feels cozy, which is kind of the goal, right? Get people in there to enjoy and connect with one another, not necessarily need to spend money, a space that they can come and connect with other people, which is going to be great. When are you opening? Let's go that. Let's go into some logistics. When are you opening? What are some of the events around that opening? Tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So we are getting our bookshelves delivered this week. Planning to open here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We don't have a definitive date. It depends on a few things that are still moving parts, but for most likely the first week in May is when we'll be doing our soft opening. Followed shortly, so May 18th is a Saturday. That weekend we're going to be doing our grand opening festivities. We have a three Minnesota author event of Jeff Lurie, Christy Belcamino, and Sarah Stonich that are going to be coming down and doing a fireside chat and book signing and things there. our vendors that are sharing space with us are going to be offering samples, and we've got kids activities. The Drive House is going to be they're going to be displaying some of the new work that was purchased as part of the like 6 months ago. The Drive House purchased a whole bunch of Wanda Gardens artwork that has not been on display in New Ulm.
Wow.
So they're going to be that'll be a reveal there. We're excited. We're going to be doing a silent book club, which I think is new to New Ulm.
I think so. I think so. I'm so excited. I literally wrote that actually. Here it is. So it says hashtag goals, number one thing on there, silent book club. And then I wrote that I wanted to do a little library in my front yard, visit as many state parks, and then do individual trips with each of my kids and my husband, like alone. So these were my goals. And silent book club was on there. I brought it up to Ginny one day, and Ginny was like, oh yeah, we're doing that with the bookstore. I was like, okay, say no more. I will attend. Yeah. So tell them what is a silent book club? Let's inspire some people to start these in their own communities.
This is the perfect thing. You don't for introverts in particular. So the idea is that you show up. You don't have to have read a whole book, but you show up with whatever book that you're currently reading. And you have a chance to meet some new people that are also going to be showing up with a book that they're currently reading, and enjoy some snacks, some camaraderie, have an hour of uninterrupted time where you can cozy up in a book nook and read. And then have a chance to talk about, what do you like about what you're reading or not like, and just learn a little bit more about other books, but also a chance to connect with other people in kind of a low pressure situation.
Yeah.
We're saw on a monthly basis.
Oh, I love that. I saw recently that, some like pubs are doing this. So places, you take a back room at a bar and people can come and enjoy a beverage, but then read. And again, it's silent because there's 1 hour of uninterrupted reading time, which as a mom, I don't get a lot of. And if I do get an hour, it's at 11 o'clock to midnight. And I'm like mad that I'm not going to bed, but I really want to get into this book. And so I just love that it's somewhere you can go, you can read. And then I love for introverts that there's an opportunity to share, but it's not, let's sit in a circle and let's all talk about the same book and let's ask questions about the book and the characters and your review. It's so much less stress, right? That I think it's going to be really neat for people to, share. And maybe someone only wants to talk to one person and then they're ready to go. Or maybe they are going to be a little more social, like I'm sure myself, where you want to go talk to everybody. You want to find out what everybody's reading and see if there's a new author or a new book that you really want to grab. Obviously, there's Goodreads online or different websites online that you can see other people's reviews. I think it's just different when you run into someone and they're holding the book in their hands and they're telling you about the book or what they think. I don't know. There's like an energy that's passed that I will pick up a book way faster that way than my 50 on Goodreads. So I think there's something about that too that I think will be really neat for the Silent Book Club. I was excited to see that. What else? What else do you think people need to know?
I think just knowing that this is a space that we don't have fully figured out, and I think that's kind of by design.
Yeah.
Is we want to hear, we want to experience what people want out of a community space. So there's some foundational pieces like having a food option and having books and music and bike supplies available. Those are things that are going to be there. But the space really is intended to be a community piece. That's why we rebranded it, and had that be a community driven effort, things like that. So if you have thoughts or ideas, or it's not quite fitting a vision for what you would like to see out of it, stop and share those thoughts and ideas. This is going to evolve, and I guarantee that it won't look the same a year from now or 5 years from now as it does on opening day. And that's on purpose.
Let's tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, we're located on the heart of downtown New Ulm, right across from the Grand. So the address is 203 North Minnesota Street. We are in the building that was just previously Kempsey Riverbend Office Supply Company was in. They've now moved back to their Tennessee building. one of the cool things about this space, I think, is so it has an actual log cabin and other kind of New Ulm facades because it was the original Christmas house in New Ulm. And so there's a lot of character that's already built into it, and we're preserving that and enhancing it. We're gonna lean into that. And
I think Brie and I will take a quick second too to plug heading down to New Ulm for a day or a weekend as well. So neither of us grew up here. And as transplants, you know, you want to love the community that you move into. And what's crazy for me about this community is it is so natural to love what they've done to this town to create a community. So I am originally from Mankato, Minnesota, and it's larger and it's busy and it's growing, and that's great. But New Ulm is also growing, yet it is holding tight to this small town feel. We have so many parks per capita. It's wild. There is safety, I feel like, within the streets of New Ulm. And then there's this downtown. So when you mentioned, you know, their retail has really shifted. We moved here in 2018, like we said. And in the last 6 years, the downtown has really shifted in the best way. A lot of downtowns are crumbling and closing up shop, and there have been new businesses that are in there. There are new clothing options downtown now. There's retail stores, you know, there's a woodworking store here in town, and it's really vibrant. It's becoming even more vibrant. However, there was a piece that they were missing, so I have to just put a plug in for Ulm Sweet Ulm. This is going to be just an incredible opportunity to enhance the downtown and go in and enjoy a space where it's not pressured. I'm really excited about it. What do you feel like is vibrant about the downtown, or what are you loving about being in this space in New Ulm?
I love that there's been this kind of resurgence of creative entrepreneurs downtown, and there's great men and women that are down there. But what
Yeah.
being a woman, business owner, what I've noticed is that there really is a tribe of and support network of particularly female entrepreneurs that are helping each other. So for example, I when I started the bookstore, we started as a pop-up shop, and we partnered with Leah Peckrell at Sweet Haven Tonics, and they hosted us for the first few months, and I learned from her. And now Lindsay Henn with Minnesota Ice and Christmas House, where we're currently located, same sort of thing. There's so many business owners that have helped each other, and it really is a collaborative sort of experience, and I think that adds to the overall experience downtown because it's not a competitive feel. It really everybody's trying to help each other because we all want the same thing, and that is a vibrant, connected downtown.
Yeah. I have a sister-in-law who said, I really need to get to downtown. And she mentioned, or to New Ulm, and she mentioned like one location that she wanted to see. And I was like, well, just you wait. You come down for a Saturday and we will be down there for a long period of time. I mean, this is not just a walk around the downtown for an hour. You can spend a lot of time downtown. There's a beautiful park right off the main drag of the downtown Minnesota street called German Park. That's stunning with a fountain. So not only can you enjoy, kind of the retail spaces, but there's also beautiful natural spaces too down there, which I just, again, it feels really good to be part of a community that you're proud of. And I'm really proud of not only, the downtown of New Ulm, but also the people of New Ulm, the community. Our kids go to school here, and we just feel like this is it. We are at home here, which I really, really love. Now, you mentioned that you are housed out of the Christmas house right now for the next month or so. If people are listening to this episode in real time, where can they check out some of your books with the bookstore, with the pop-ups?
Yeah. So first, I'd say follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. That's where you're getting the most current information on kind of what's happening. So Christmas House is located at 127 North Minnesota Street. We are staffed with bookstore staff there on Tuesday afternoon, and then we match their hours on Friday and Saturday. But our books are set up all of the time. So if you can't make one of those times and you want to come check the books out or potentially purchase something, you can do that anytime that the Christmas house is open.
That's so great. You also have an online link that I'll make sure to put in the show notes. But that's been really incredible. I mean, all of you listening, you can't house every book that every person wants to listen to. And so tell us about how you connect to Bookshop. Is it bookshop.org?
Yeah, so bookshop.org has it's basically if you order from it, it comes directly from our wholesaler to your home. So think of it, it's kind of an alternative to the big A, Amazon. We don't mention that word often in the book industry. It's kind of like he who shall not be named. But they tried to put us out of business. That's why I have to.
Yeah.
Say that. Anyway, Bookshop funds independent bookstores like Lykke Books. So the proceeds, instead of going to Jeff Bezos, are coming to local businesses. There's also an audiobook kind of link called Libro.fm it's the same thing. It funds independent bookstores and helps support local business. So both of those, if you book for your jam, or if you want buy something, maybe you don't live in town but want to have it shipped straight to your door, both of those can be found on our website as well.
Yeah, we belong here in town to a book club that is all about personal development. And so it's really nice every month when we get our new book club book, we can jump on Brie's bookstore link or bookshop link and have that delivered right to our door, or she always brings copies to our book club too. So if you want to find them, they are on Lykke Books on social media, correct? And then what's your website again?
So it's lykkebooks, plural.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Well, thank you for your time today. And thank you for taking a chance on you stepping out of that regular career path and kind of dreaming up something that could be, and then taking the actions to get yourself there. Because like you said, it's not going to look the same a year from now. And Lykke Communities isn't going to look the same 10 years from now. And I know there's going to be growth, there's going to be change. And I think people need to understand the mission to get really behind it and, take action themselves. And I think that's going to happen with the Alm Sweet Alm and the bookstore, because people are really going to love it and feel compelled to be involved. And that's when I think you're really going to see a lot of momentum within the other aspects of your organization. So thank you for doing that. We appreciate it so much here in town. And then also just for all my listeners, I think so many of us are looking for inspiration and looking for people who are doing something. We might not inspire somebody to go open a bookshop next year, but this idea of taking a chance on you, but also like really leaning into your happiness and your joy, like that's what we were put on this planet to do, in my opinion. And so, how can you do that while serving others at the same time? It's just so impactful. So thank you so much, Brie.
Thanks for having me.
Man, oh man, I hope this episode inspired you to truly think about living in your purpose and your passion, and how you selfishly doing that could actually create immense impact for the people around you. And it may only impact a few people. When you find joy in the work that you are doing, when you bring a positive attitude to the workplace, or you bring a positive attitude home, you are making an impact on other people. But it starts with you. It starts with you taking action. It starts with you reflecting on who you are, what you're doing, and what you're getting out of that. Are you truly living your purpose? And if not, I hope this episode inspired you to just think a little deeper in that topic and take some actions. I am so grateful you are here today. I am so grateful for you listening. For those of you who have been sharing the podcast, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for doing that. Send this podcast out to those who love bookstores and new bookshops. Send it out to people who are thinking about a career change. Send it out to people who you want to inspire to live out the passion that they've been talking to you about for days or weeks or months or years. You can truly make a difference by sharing this podcast with others. I appreciate you. Now let's go out there and create change.